Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
This is Ringru, low.
And folks, Steel Division League turns 10. In fact, we are starting the 10th season of SD2 League play. And today on Shell, who are we starting this 10th season with, sir?
On the left-hand side, in the blue, we have Mimile playing the 4th Alpini with a Vanguard income. Right-hand side, in red, we have Khers playing as the 43rd Reserv Army, also going Vanguard.
So naturally, we know the Italians are going to win every single tank duel today. And, of course, the Russians are going to win every single infantry duel today. So, really the question is, who wins the tanks, who wins the infantry? And I think, I just said, Italians on one side, Soviets on the other.
I mean, the Italians were, like, the fiercest competitor in the North Africa campaign.
See, there's a part of me that wants to take that as the joke that it is. There's a part of me that wants to take that seriously, and I'm not entirely sure which one's going to win. No, it was one of the weird things. I think actually we talked about Rommel over here on Tuesday's match, but Rommel certainly kind of made the comment every now and again that when they were competently led, the Italians are freaking fearsome fighters.
Yeah, it's just Officer Cora's a big dum-dum.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was not Mario or Luigi. It's more like Luigi Cadorna. Please. So, what do we have
on the actual match side of things? We're seeing like a pretty aggressive opener, it seems, from Mimile, trying to expand his Italian empire by getting auto blinders all over the place. Khers going pretty heavily into the central hill, but getting caught in that off-map artillery. They're actually not too bad. Yeah, he actually avoided it, so good for him. Good for him.
Very good for him, but up to the northern side, this one Maxim that was getting actually bum rushed and got thankfully saved by the LA-7. I get the feeling, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I get the feeling that whatever happens to this forest, that's what either wins or loses the map.
Yes, especially his hill, because like you said with the tanks, like real talk, Khers, if he can get that hill, set up all his heavy equipment, support stuff, that's going to be such a good base of fire. Well, for Mimile, he wants to keep it close, he wants to keep it personal, especially with his infantry, as they can do some pretty damn good work at close quarters. So at the same time, Khers does have the officer Strafniki's, and I mean, they're not great CQC guys, but the fanatical trait does do rondos in motivating people to stick on the front line.
This is true. And when Alpinists actually don't get into trees, they tend to be, well, a lot shorter, a lot quickly.
Yeah. It's supposed to be going up the mountains, not down them.
I think it's engaging with the mountains the important idea here. So, but no, it is still 14-10 in favor of Mimile. And oddly enough, we see ourselves a very early JU-87 is going to get engaged by the Yak-9B. If I am him, I am getting out very, very quickly, because I'm not a dogfighter.
No. A little bit out of date, yeah. Oh, it's getting into a return fight, but there we go. The Yak does manage to get the angle.
He's dragging it across the 20 mil. He's dragging across the 20 mil. That's a really interesting idea. Oh, he's going for the Comrati!
Oh.
Oof.
And he does not care about enemy fighters. He's just living the moment, doing his best, and gets a very good lot of tank snipe here.
Now one more shot. Tank. Never mind. He's gonna die now, but you know what? That actually was a very good trade.
Yeah, it wasn't actually too bad, especially considering those G1 Stukas have a very short life expectancy.
That's a polite way of saying that they suck, but that's I'm gonna translate from the Canadian on that one. Yak-9B in the meantime coming in, looking for the auto blindas, and he's got enough bombs that probably could kill at least one, but doesn't.
Wow. Quite surprising, but we are seeing Mimile really focus on trying to take his hill, and that's exactly what he should be doing. He needs to win this fight and try to get the high ground, especially with all the, mountain troops as well, and the jokes one can make about that. Oh, we got the Bavaro just going to be carpet bombing the crap out of that hill. I don't know if that's going to be great hits. Nah, pretty mediocre. But the Khers still has a huge clump of infantry, and it feels like Mimile is kind of attacking this hill in pieces rather than waiting to get a bigger force and then pushing them all up at front.
Well, and it's bringing in recruits as well, so this was where things start to go very much downhill. And that pun was not intended either, but it's not going to go well. You don't bring the Alpini recruits as being like, yes, here's the frontline troops.
Yeah, and especially this problem right now, because we're seeing the Pioneers and the Alpinis go in, but they're probably going to die or take pretty heavy casualties by the time the recruits come, and then, well, Khers has a lot of defense in depth. He's pulled back his infantry a bit, and he's just buying himself time by making these Pioneers go through each of his dudes kind of one by one.
Here's a call, though. The 172 off-map is coming right back in. I think he's trying to get eyes on, and then decide whether or not, do I drop artillery on top of that? Be very, very telling whether or not he does so, as he kind of continues to lollygag his way towards the front lines. I think if these Pionieri and Alpini go down, then yes, we are going to see artillery on the hill. If not, well, there's my answer right there.
There we go. Yeah, it's a bit more of a defensive, of course, because he doesn't want to hit his own troops, but there's not going to be many of his own troops left here. So it's just working really well for Khers. And that LA7 just didn't even see it coming.
That's fine, though. I mean, he used 2 of his 3 charges, so it's not too terrible.
Mm-hmm. Damn. But it's just... Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
No, it's just going, like, pretty well here, it seems, for Khers. Even though Mimile, who's completely neglected just, he's kind of just been playing around in the forest and got some pretty good territorial gains, albeit not exactly strong territorial gains, with just this auto-blinder push in the center.
Yeah, and while he's pushing in the center, his south is looking, shall we say, a little bit less pushed. This is actually very, very bad. When we have Chernos and Strafniki and Kombroti and Half-Tracks, and the GNR commands over here, these guys are going to put up a momentary fight, but they're just a speed bump in history for that.
Yeah, and then look, we got the Italian medium tank versus the KV-1. I mean, the KV-1 should pretty easily win this engagement. And this is going to be the problem here for Mimile. If he's having to fight in these stand-up, longer-range fights, he's going to have a hard time. And Khers has such a huge investment here down south to make his push happen. Though the initial push for the B810 and Strafnikis are slowly getting picked off here. And the Chernos are coming in strong. And, Chernos are not exactly the best disheartened troops. Are really just trying to take bullets for you. Oh, bombing.
Yeah, close, but no pasta here. Looking back on the center real quick, so the initial recruits have made it up to the top of the hill. They are, as you might suspect, not enthusiastic about where they are right now. And I think they're waiting over here to get the command to remove that disheartened, and the Pioneer troops kind of back that up. So it's back to a 12-12. There's also things like an Autoblinda that's behind the front lines and killing poor conscripts.
Oh yeah, he's going through quite a lot of them. Oh, 410 recon plane. I do like this. You should see this massive infusion of reinforcements being brought on to the hill for Khers. And yeah, once again, like Mimile, he needs... I mean, losing the off-map sucks because now he is starting to get a decent force to actually make a push. But he's going to have a very hard time now uprooting this infantry, even though Khers has taken some casualties on this central hill.
Looking down, Spaviera going after the 45 mil. This should be enough to kill. No, he actually bombs the wrong forest. So we had a very much a princess in the wrong castle moment here. And you were right to kind of mention that he does see all that infantry being brought on in, but he does have a M37 machine gun. And this is one that we don't see very often except for these mountain kind of divisions. But he's very much retarded their deployment, which I think is... It's worth something. I'm not sure if it's worth its weight just yet, but it's worth something.
Yeah, he's meant to slow him down a little bit. Though Khers has been able to regain initiative in the central part of the map. He's got his T-34s and Superiors moving through. And hey, this is... I really forgot just how effective just baseline T-34s can be, especially against the Italians, because those T-34s are cheap. They beat out all the Italian tanks, and they provide effective fire support against infantry there. I think it might be a controversial opinion, Khan, but I think the T-34 is a good tank.
Nonsense, I say. You know what the good tank is? a Sherman because they have stabilizers.
That's... I retract my previous statement.
Damn straight. Screw the Christie suspension. Give me a stabilizer. Now, we are going to see the Shernos and the Strafniki are actually being pulled into the saddle, which I think is a very interesting decision. When I say interesting, I mean wrong. Not because they won't be able to grab territory, because they definitely will. I just think that if the hilltop is so important, then make the hilltop important. If the hilltop is not important, then push any place that doesn't deal with the hilltop. But you can't really do both.
This hill is actually kind of collapsing a little bit quickly here for Khers. So I think it might be a bit of a overstatement, because that T-34's and there's not a whole lot of long-range anti-tank to exactly deal with it. So at least what Khers can do is set up a no man's land between his side of the hill and the other side of the hill, and just grind down Mimile in a long-range battle.
Actually, I do want to see down south. There was a momentary attempt to kind of take this town. And we are seeing what you were talking about, that kind of attrition fight. P-26 over here being engaged by the 45 mil, and the 45 mil theoretically should be killing him every day of the week and twice on Thursday. For the moment, though, he's just bouncing now because he has APCR. Oh my gosh.
God, no, he finally gets that hit.
He does indeed. We're getting 65 mil support guns being brought over here in the south central position, and a Strafniki squad runs afoul of that that R2002.
It's a very advanced plane.
It took me half a second again. I think it's the time that we're actually casting this. It's one of those moments. Auto blindas, though, while they are not really made to be a long-term tank, we actually just see a Semovente 4732 takes out. I don't even know what the heck that was. Was that a T-3476? They took out a T-3476 in the center part of that map.
Yeah.
So move over, crazy tanks. We have the, I don't even know, Pinocchio who didn't tell a lie tank, able to kind of pick up some pound of flesh here or there. Yet, despite that,
it's a very. Oh no, it's a tank is probably the most grammatically correct thing I can say when talking about. I guess it's a mobile platform gun with armor.
It's an armored vehicle.
Yes, with a gun. One gun, no machine gun, just one gun.
Well, that's why I didn't call it.
Machine gun's too much.
That's why I didn't call it armored fighting vehicle. But the center of the hilltop is actually completely and totally in Mimile's control. There is a vain attempt, I would call it, as there's still one squad of Auto Strafniki coming on in, and an SG-43 who's not been killed just yet. Now, the fascinating thing for me here is that there's a Panzerschreck squad who still is loaded, so I don't know what killed the T-3485, but something did.
Yeah. And I'm very happy for Mimile that he really just full sent it into the hill instead of allowing Khers to build up a force and actually contest it. Now the question is, will Mimile, A, be able to hold the hill? He does have some Pack 40s, knows to be pretty good, and B, really exploit from it, because you now have some pretty good options in pushing through the center and also pushing a little bit down south and just completely capturing this part of the map.
Well, look at the movement orders. You'll see what the answer to that is.
Oh, yeah, he's going hard.
I think that's a little bit aggressive, but I applaud the audacity.
He does have the opportunity, because there's not a whole lot of reinforcements being brought in right now. It seems like Khers is very much focused on getting his southern flank secured, which he's close to doing.
Yes, he is. Now, there's a company of those, not even sure to call them light tanks, not the M15s, the M14s, being brought to the center. I'd like to see some artillery to kind of be brought to suppress this southern push quite a bit.
Yeah, artillery on this map is extremely valuable, because it's very hard to get direct line of sight on most things, because, there's all these trees in the way. It's quite not nice. So being able to have some artillery is good. But actually, we say that neither side has really any artillery guns. Mimile has some mortars, and that's it.
Well, he formerly had an off map.
Now it's on the map permanently.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. Down south, we actually also saw that the Shernas got beaten off, as did the Strafniki. And for the moment, it's a 14-10 over here in favor of Mimile, as he's also kind of continued to not, I would say, effectively control the center, but he's throwing enough bodies at it that Rome is sort of back.
Yeah, he's making decent progress, but now we're seeing a huge inflection of reinforcements here from Khers, and mainly just the few light armored vehicles, those half tracks, will be enough to shut this down, because Mimile's push had a lot of, bodies to it, but it doesn't have a lot of anti-tank for those bodies, not a whole lot of firepower within that push. So I think it's just a matter of time when all these dudes just get blapped.
You are very correct, sir. I think I'm just trying to figure out what's the response to this other than just bringing in those Pack 40s. Is there a response?
Pack 40s. He needs them on the hill to start providing fire support. And he still has, this company of M15s and M14s coming in. I'm guessing he's going to full send it. And if he can get round into the corner area, fight CQC, he can pose a challenge even to his SU-85s, but he gotta keep it close. He's gotta keep it personal.
And he's not keeping those Pack 40s alive. He is not. Every single time you see one, they pretty much get taken out almost instantly, it feels like. Spaviero doesn't get any bombs off. The Arietta does not either.
Damn, pretty effective anti-air coverage here from Khers. The AC-9 trying to go in for the intercept, but that's not going to happen.
The 20 mils are surprisingly effective anti-air platforms. They might get a kill from this. There's 3 of them firing. Statistically, that should be... Yep, there we go.
Damn. Yeah, even the light anti-aircraft guns, if you can get the plane to fly directly over it, it's usually a pretty good kill shot.
Also, there are 5 Italian tanks now, and I guarantee you, one by one, they will all be taken out by this T-34-76 in Defilade.
Mm-hmm.
And that will make me very sad. And now there's 5 more tanks. One of them's already dead. 2 are now dead. There were 6. We are down to 4.
Oh,
Yak 9. Oh, dear Lord. Just 2 more. Yep.
Yeah, it's just going to shut down that push here, and it seems like Mimile is starting to lose a little bit of the momentum that he had going on in center, as well, the Italian equipment just does not hold up as snuff compared to the Soviet stuff.
I mean, we do say that, but at the same time, it still is 14-10. And remember, they have the same econ curves. So, all right, fine. I'll lose 4 guys to year 3. You still have to afford the heavy tanks later on, which means that you still don't bring in infantry, and I do.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be, I think, very important if he can just hold that hill. I mean, he has pretty good positions. I mean, he still has control over the flag all the way down south. I mean, he doesn't really control the town, but who cares? At least he holds that flag, and that's a CQC area which he can take advantage of. And you're seeing Khers isn't even bothering to push her anymore. He's just set up his defensive line.
Exactly. He's trying to take back that hillside in the center, though, which is an understandable call, although at the same time I feel like that's not going to be the best usage here. Especially as the infantry comes up on the top of the hilltop, we do have 20 mils, and actually we're getting some more Alpinis being brought on in, so...
Yeah, it's gonna really just need some, T-34-76s, some cheap armor support to back up his superior push. Even this, where I say half-track can do the job, but got a little bit too close here.
Very, very true. Arietta over here trying to go and put bombs onto that top. He wasn't forced back. I'm actually surprised that he took that retreat already. All right. But the 20 mic will be more than enough, I think, here. Once it gets eyes on, of course.
If he can do his thing. They are getting into that C phase where things do start to slow down, and I don't know, it feels Mimile does have good map control, but he's slowly losing that momentum. I think the crash can be, even with C phase income early on, it's not too bad, but once you usually get to the 25-minute mark, you really start to feel the consequences of it. Whether Khers in a reasonable amount of time can start making some big plays.
have his own incursion, as you might say.
Yes.
Mm.
It
It was a delayed fuse. Now, down south, there is actually a delayed push here, but the Ariete not being, let's say, battered by some of the other ridiculous anti-air they had to deal with in the meantime, puts not the kibosh on it, but certainly slows it down quite a bit, giving some time for some Alpinis to get into that area. And in fact, an entire huge rush of equipment, some of it old, some of it new, some of it Italian, and some of it blue.
Yeah,
So.
it might have been a little bit of an overextension here from Khers. I mean, the T-34 is dangerous, but without infantry to back him up, you're seeing he's forced it back, and with this huge, counterattack here from Mimile, heck, even those M15s can... I'd say it might be a little bit optimistic, even thinking they can do any critical damage to the T-34s. But the Panzerschreck definitely can, if you can get a wee bit close.
Well, and he's bringing in more infantry, so he's reinforcing the failure here, so I'm not sure I like that very much. Then we do have that one Alpini squad, the Agostino, over here in the windmill, and I'm watching Saving Private Ryan in my head right about now. As the anti-tank guns, we're putting some rather intense fire on it. Superior's being brought up onto the road. Yeah, this is not going to go well for them either, though. So, no. I think the south is stabilized. I don't think it's a great defensive position, but it's stabilized enough.
Yeah, he can just hold just that tip of the hill just enough to keep things going. And in the center, we are seeing another, M15, M14, just Italian tank platoon make a push across here. And I do like how he's trying to open up other fronts, even if it doesn't gain him any flags or anything substantial. At least it forces Khers to react and race his time, because time is on Mimile's side.
Yes, it is. Kind of interesting thing, Alpini were actually the reason that T-34-76 that's bedeviled that advance for so long are dead. And the Superiors that are feeling rather superior right about now are going to get pushed back by some of these ridiculously light tanks.
Yeah. Yeah, close quarters are just not bad.
They feel very much like Italian Stuarts.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what the Italian version of Stuart is, but that's besides the point right now. Yes, sir? Mm-hmm.
If only it was, I'm looking at the stats, if only the main guns shot a bit faster, because, 7 rounds a minute is slow for a small caliber gun like that.
That might be the case, but now they have a rough salient that can be charged into those lines right there. And ME-410's going to unmask some of this ground fire. RE-2002, yeah, he goes for the 76-2. He takes that out. That's actually not a linchpin, but it's certainly worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And does so.
There we go. And just looking at the, map disposition, once again, coming down to numbers, it definitely feels like the blue side has more units on the actual field compared to Khers.
Well, and not to be done with just that. He's actually engaged in the anti-air positions with his own bombers. So I think he's starting to feel himself here.
Yeah, and it's only a heavy gun. He's actually smoking it. I like that. He's smoking the anti-aircraft gun, so it doesn't shoot his bombers.
But the Ariete can't see it now.
Yeah, well, I guess if you're just doing a fire position move on it.
He didn't drop.
Just know what it is. I know it's.
So this is a very, very strange but wondrous idea. Actually, I'm also kind of fascinated here too. There's an SU-122, the SU-85, and a T-34-85. So the F-14's in the middle. They're like, run away! But unfortunately, not to be outdone.
Yeah, when the Soviet armor comes knocking, it knocks hard.
Yes, it does seem to. But the Pak-40 sitting in there we go. So a bait and switch. He does sacrifice a couple of tanks for it, but he does manage to get a kill or two despite.
Mm-hmm. And now we come down to the problem again, where Khers has some scary tanks, but he has no infantry to back him up, and he's been a bit aggressive with the SU-85 and T-34. I mean, if he moves up a bit closer, that Pak-40 or some anti-tank grenades can start falling upon his armor.
And isn't that kind of what we were talking about quite a bit? I mean, it is 1311. We do see down south, there's a loose threat of taking a flag or two, sort of. But the rather hefty push that had been so threatening into that town push back into the several hundred meters.
Yeah, 100%. And Mimile has definitely he's just been trading very effectively here. I mean, just down south, like you said, it's just a huge amount of Alpini troops, and there's not a whole lot in front of him to stop him.
I'm trying to think. I mean, of course, the tanks have given their lives for the great Duce over here. But there was actually, you know what? Go north from that town again. That one Breda machine gun that's right there, unsung hero. We're singing about him now, but an unsung hero that for the longest time the Soviets came in, and every single time that kind of came in, he took them in the flank and kind of put a lot of suppressive firepower down on top of them. It was really, really well, I would say, skillfully handled in terms of an ambush.
Indeed.
S-85, T-34-85 trying to start up something over here. So you see 2 Superiors, 2 Chernos, and a Partridge and a Pear Tree all being stuffed into that thin arterial. It's actually very fortunate for him that there is no artillery, because that would have been a prime position to start just stressing people out like crazy.
Yeah. This has definitely been quite advantageous for Mimile in that regard, because a lot of his troops and equipment is all soft targets, not a whole lot of heavy armor available. And all of it is very clumped up right now because there's nothing to punish him for not clumping up. So it's very hard here for Khers to dig him out of these positions.
As with the left, that down south, there's this wave of Italians going forward. And now there's a wave of Italians going backward, as between the T-34-85 and it's this 3. People deciding, maybe we don't want any of that smoke.
Understandable. The Pounder Track is trying to go in for the flank here.
He's not going to get it, though, either, because the tank goes still that direction. So, going with flame troops, the tank goes going to kill both of them in about 2 seconds, but maybe, just maybe, we'll see a hero.
Actually, the Tankos don't have any Molotovs left. They're all out of drinks, so there's a chance the Lancia Flame could get the stun, but the Pounder Track also is heading more south, and he should be going a bit north.
That might be the case. Let's see how this goes. First flame going up. Dead. Okay. That's that. Checking back in the center, going back to that kind of not aborted push, but just that push in general. The tanks, again, tanks very, very scary, very, very terrifying. But the shadows are going to go down. Superiors are going to push back. More Superiors being brought on in. I think we're actually probably to a point here. We could probably take this to a ×2. You think at like 2750 or so?
Yeah, 2750.
And ×2. So, folks, I mean, shockingly enough, I thought Mimile was going to get knocked on his backside because he was for the longest period of time. I'm not entirely sure what was the stopgap that allowed him to really re-seize the day. It might have been where Khers got fixated on that southern push.
Yeah, because eventually Mimile managed to go and just take out Northern Hill extremely efficiently, and then his good terrain, he held it, and he just traded extremely efficiently of Khers, just holding the bloody line. And with the Italians, it's all just a lot of cheap stuff, especially when it comes to tanks, so you can just stuff the line with a whole heap of bodies, and you can just buy yourself time.
Yes, you can, and yes, he does. And there, folks, is the end of the first match that we've covered over here from Season 10. Look at the KD. This was, as you could tell, it's like a toes on the line, thumping match. People just swinging for the fences back and forth. KD is roughly equal over here.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised. I thought Mimile was getting would have a higher KD difference. It definitely felt like it looking on the map, but I mean, it was still enough to get in the dub.
I think part of that, too, is he's losing 3 or 4 of his light tanks for 1 of the Soviet tanks over here. So that might be where we're seeing some of the disparity coming back around.
Those Italian tanks just cost nothing.
Yep, but they get to the front line faster than those Valentines, so they still work. Or, geez, what's the other one? They had the B2s, the Char B2s, the B1s.
Yeah, and anything French.
That's true. That's true. The French were a little bit too busy at that point. Su-85 over here, 3 vehicle kills, T-34 underneath that, Stepankov? Sure.
Stepankov.
Picking up 4 kills as well. So, I mean, we do have some rather nifty ground aces here. Dubois over here doing pretty well for himself. or herself, let's be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Losses on the other side. That Ju-87, that early Ju-87, picking up 2 kills, which I think was not the game winner, but certainly killed a lot of momentum early on. So maybe we have to kind of tip our hat towards that Ju-87 driver as well.
Yeah, the R2002 doing decent.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, nothing really crazy. Everyone just kind of had to do their bit.
Yeah, indeed. So really well done to Mimile. Honestly, I always like seeing the Italians being played here in the first place, and to kind of see them played effectively. I would have folded like a cheap card table, but he handled it very, very well.
Yeah, like good bloody job, and it's fun now. The Italian, especially Alpini division, is a very fun division, mainly just because of all the weird meme Italian tanks.
I'm trying to think of any way to kind of go and sum it up better than that, and I really can't. So I guess, unless you have anything further to add, that might be where we kind of call it quits for today.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, folks, until next time then, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rue. Take it easy.